I mean, it's a massive bill, isn't it? It really is.
It's massive. There's two more things I want to touch on while we're
Okay.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot, as I say, I can't cover, but two more fairly significant points for businesses to be aware of is the government has talked about abolishing fire and rehire. So abolishing the ability to dismiss someone when they haven't agreed to a change to their contract after consultation and offering a re-engagement on the new terms. So the bill proposes to make it automatically unfair to dismiss an employee for refusing to agree a change in their contract of employment,
Okay.
with a limited exception to that. So bear with me while I read what the legislation says. This is fairly wordy, but the limited exception is that the reason for the variation was to eliminate, prevent, or significantly reduce or significantly mitigate the effect of any financial difficulties which at the time of dismissal were affecting or were likely in the immediate future to affect the employer's ability to carry on the business as a going concern or otherwise carry on the activities constituting the business. And in all the circumstances, the employer couldn't reasonably have avoided the need to make the variation. So
Okay.
essentially, there is and you can make a variation to the contractual terms, but and you could look to dismiss someone if they haven't agreed to that change, but only if you can rely on that very, very limited exception where you're showing that it would impact on the business financially with immediate effect. So it makes it far more challenging to look at dismissal and re-engagement. And I know most businesses take that as a very last resort option
Yeah.
anyway, but it's just to be aware that there's some tightening up of the rules around that practice.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, as an employer myself, I'm sitting here going, oh my goodness, Gemma, I may need a hotline to you. Do you know, I've spoken to so many, I've actually been doing a lot of meetings with sort of various CEOs and MDs recently about the exec edge part of my business. And this has come up time and time again. And do you know, I think we always discuss this, Gemma, when we talk about employment law updates, etc. It is a bit of a minefield, and I think you touched on it really well. It's the definition, and it's, well, wait a minute, how as a business leader do you define, are we hitting those parameters? Are we within those categories? Do we meet those conditions? And I think, again, you're right in that the majority of businesses do want to do the right thing, but it is a lack of sometimes understanding, an overwhelm of information. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing those kind of headlines with us. I guess the next question is, when are we expecting these changes to actually come into force?
So we think the bill will pass in 2025. Perhaps rather confusingly, it's probably going to be called the Employment Rights Act 2025, which is slightly unfortunate because we already have the Employment Rights Act 1996.
Oh,
But we think that will happen, and that's what it will be called.
okay.
But I think the actual implementation date for the changes isn't known yet. The next steps document that I referred to earlier from the government says that the majority of the changes will take effect no earlier than 2026.
Okay.
And it does specifically say the reform on unfair dismissal will take effect no sooner than autumn 2026. So that is the earliest we see the changes taking place. And obviously the bill is working its way through at the moment, but it's just to be aware that there are, as
Yeah.
we've seen, a raft of significant changes
Yeah.
and to be on the front end of them coming in.
Yeah. Well, listen, it goes without saying, Gemma, thank you so much. And obviously, I will be tagging you in the post that we put out with this podcast. And so, yeah, expect to have your inbox flooded, I'm sure. But it's just super useful to get the headlines of the key changes that are coming into force, or are going to be coming into force in 2026, as you say. Hopefully, we don't have the definite date, but we've got an idea, an indicator of the timescales. Certainly, if any of my network want to reach out to Gemma directly, I know you and the Anderson Southern team are all over this, so you are a great support for those individuals. But once again, Gemma, thank you so much for your time today.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie.